Welcome to Mindset Matters. I'm your host, McBride. First of all, I'd like to apologize for my voice. I've been doing a lot of speaking in the last 2 days, and you may hear me sipping on some tea, but that's okay. I had to get this message out because it was something that I could not hold back any further. I am going to attempt, with God's help, to share with you 3 messages in one. So I need you to listen very carefully, because even though they will have different titles, the subject matter is pretty much the same. And I encourage you, towards the end of each message, to really key in on the last 3 to 4 minutes at the end of each message, because there will be such a similarity that is unprecedented. Now, when Dr. Evans and I do our messages, we don't consult to see what are you doing next and what am I doing next. But I'm going to show you how God works. There are 3 different messages, like I said, with different content, but they all have the same objective. That's why I want you to be careful when you listen to the end of these messages, because they will basically share the description of why this message was composed. Dr. Evans mentioned in his last podcast that his area of interest to convey to you was educational leadership, which he's done very well, I might add. My focus is on life skills and personal development. There may be some similarities there, and you're going to find that out in this message. That's why when Dr. Evans shared with me his message, I could not believe it, because like I said, we don't up front say my next session is going to be on this, my next session is going to be on that. But when he shared the message with me, I was so moved by the content and the similarities of what I had done. I asked his permission to reference his last message. Now, the titles, like I said, are going to be totally different. There's going to be 3 messages, similar content, with one objective. As I go into these messages, I ask you guys to pray for me. This is something that I've never done before. 3 messages in one. But I could not rest because of the complexity and the importance of this message. I hope that I will say something to encourage you, to enlighten you, to move you, to elevate you, to push you to that next step in life, to where your leadership skills, your education, your life skills, your personal development will increase to such a manner that you have to share it with someone else. And that takes me to my text. The first message is entitled, I'm on a Mission. The second message is going to be entitled, Man in the Mirror. The third message by Dr. Stephen Evans was Subliminal Messaging. Now he goes into, let me back up. As I read these messages, they're not to show contrast or comparison, but to show you the cohesiveness and the similarities of contingencies of these messages and how they can be in conjunction with each other. Dr. Evans did a really good job conveying his message. The first message I will talk about will be a man on a mission. The second message I will talk about is the man in the mirror. And the third message, again by Dr. Stephen Evans, is subliminal messaging. Now, I know you might be wondering, how is this going to work out? How is this going to go together? But let me show you how God works. He says, where there's 2 or 3 gathered in my name, there I am in the midst. So it has to make sense. As I go into this message, I ask you to pray for me, that I will do what saith the Lord. As I go into the message, let's talk about my area of interest. Life skills and personal development. Now, let's look at a worldly perspective when I say that. Life skills enables humans to effectively, with the demands, they expect us to handle demands of life's challenges. They're also called psychosocial skills. They're all psychological in nature and include thinking, behavior processing. Life skills can be acquired through learning or life experiences. Examples will include life skills on persistence, resilience, and there are others, many. Life skills are used to enhance our ability to function with the challenges and the demands that life will throw at us. It will never be perfected, but it can be effective. Let me tell you the second story here. I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to backtrack. Excuse me. What does the Bible say from a biblical perspective about life skills? The Bible provides various life skills. Some key things include wisdom, compassion, stewardship, integrity, honesty, diligence, conflict resolution. Oh, that's a good one. Self-control and discipline. We have to have a certain amount of skills if we want to be effective in our walk in life. Because if we don't, our subliminal messaging, and you'll hear that frequently, will be a blueprint for our future. Now, as I go into my second message, a man on a mission, we reference Jesus Christ. Why don't we use the word struggle to describe Jesus? But maybe we should. Because his life wasn't just about sermons and miracles. It was also about pressures and pain, grief, exhaustion, being pulled in every direction. Does that sound similar to anyone? Do you feel like that sometimes? I just can't catch a break. Jesus didn't live in a peaceful, easy world. Definitely back then, and we sure not living in one right now. He lived under the powerful empire that watched and controlled everything. A society that misunderstood him. Fences didn't always show up. Systems didn't bend for anyone, especially the working class carpenter. No. Beneath me, from the sticks, Nazareth wasn't exactly a booming metropolis. Jesus knew about burnout, anxiety, loneliness. Seen as a threat and challenging an existing social and political order. Jesus experienced government oppression. He lived under Roman occupancy and regime that taxed the poor into deeper poverty. Silenced the protest that violence was used in public execution to keep people in line. It was a system that protected the powerful and punished those who called for justice. He faced betrayal from friends and suffered sleepless nights and a crushing burden that carried other people's pain as well as his own. Jesus got tired. He got overwhelmed with emotions. He wept. He asked God hard questions. Jesus knew the crushing weight of everyone's expectations, and he knew it was like he knew what it was to feel completely alone. We've been there. He knew what it meant to care deeply about the world that didn't always get back. But he didn't numb up. He didn't self-medicate. He didn't shut down. He stayed present. He was on a mission. Jesus kept pursuing and practicing compassion. That is one of the life skills that the Bible had talked about. But so what? Is any of these relevant thousands of years later? Well, consider this. So many of us today are dealing with similar issues: inflation, the uncertainty of the job market, feeling burned out. Perhaps you're one of the many Americans working multiple jobs to keep your family afloat. The aftermath of social distancing, coupled with social media, has radically changed the interactions we have, leaving some to feel more disconnected and more alone than ever. Some of us feel like politics aren't fair, while others still feel hurt about things that happened in the past. We're carrying that baggage. So what is the solution? We were not prepared to have the answers, but Jesus left clues about how we might manage this. If you could simplify his teachings and methods to a single idea, it would be that everyone deserved a good life, a full life, and to be loved and to love one another. He didn't want to see others struggle and barely scraping by. He wanted everyone to thrive. He desired the world was just and equitable for all. He dedicated his life to this idea. He had his mind set right. With that in mind, maybe his way of handling life's hardships can help us deal with ours. We have to change our mindset. Our mindset about people and things. A few scripture references: John 4:6, Mark 14:33 through 34, John 11:35, and Matthew 27:46. Referencing back to Dr. Evans' message, Subliminal Messaging. What do we want to convey to people when we're in their presence, when we interact with them? Dr. Evans painted a really good picture when he referenced an environment that he was working in and what people were going through with their subliminal messaging. Now, he describes subliminal messaging as a visual, auditory message to influence. He also referenced that people were struggling with the type of influence that they were receiving from others, leaders. I don't know that I don't know what it is about the person. They just don't like me. Dr. Evans asked the question, what are they doing? Is something going on? And they just couldn't describe what was going on. But there is a term for that. The term is called discernment. Man's interpretation of discernment is a formal and approving term that refers to the ability to judge people and things well. It is a facility of discernment, discrimination, acuteness of judgment, and understanding. Discernment is also defined as a quality of being able to grasp and comprehend what is obscure. A skill in discerning is an act of perceiving or discerning something in the act of processing or exhibiting keen insight and good judgment. That's the word's perspective. Let's look at the Bible perspective on discernment. It is a spiritual gift given by God through the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. It describes being able to distinguish, discern, judge, or appraise a person's statement, situation, and environment. In the Bible, it is taught that believers should seek discernment in order to grow in wisdom. The Bible tells us, in all you're getting, get understanding of the knowledge of spiritual truth. Discernment is accurately evaluating ourselves, people, and situations. It is a responsibility of every Christian to be able to discern. So when Dr. Evans asked, what is it that they're doing? I just know this person just doesn't like me. I can tell. It's not so much what they're doing, but I just feel it. That's discernment. As we think about this from my perspective, I'm going to get into my text, the life skills and personal development. Now, Dr. Evans shares his story, which was masterfully done, by the way. And I'm going to share a story of mine. I worked in law enforcement, I worked in mental health, so forth and so on, but I came across the epitome of subliminal messaging when I started working in law enforcement. This is the type of environment, if you don't have your mindset right going in, it can lead to a damaging effect, a long-term effect. But you have to have the life skills to project the subliminal messaging that you want to project. Now, my text is called The Man in the Mirror. And I hope to prove that in this text. Have you ever been in a situation where you're telling yourself, why people don't like me? No one wants to talk to me, carry on a conversation. You're the one that when you walk towards a crowd, they will disperse. People are always talking behind my back. Why no one ever asks me to go anywhere? They don't call me on the phone. Man in the mirror. I don't call anyone. I don't invite people. What is going on here? It's that subliminal messaging that you're giving out. It's not so much what you're saying. It's that projection. And I'm going to try to give you a layman's term of the subliminal message. It's a transfer of energy. Could be positive, could be negative. But it's a transferring of energy of your projection. The way you act, the way you behave, the way you speak, the way you look at someone. It's your subliminal messaging. What do you want that to be? What do you want that to be in your place of work, in your place of worship, in your household, in your relationships with your spouse, your children, your family and friends? What do you want your subliminal message to be about? Maybe you're not approachable because of your subliminal messaging. People don't feel comfortable being around you because of your subliminal messaging. If you want things to change, first you have to change. I hear people say that all the time. I wish this would change, and I wish this was better, and I wish that was better. It starts with you. One thing that Dr. Evans mentions was, the only person who can change this is you. And when you're exuding your subliminal messaging, that's from the heart. It tells people who you are, what you are about. It's in you. So if we want to be better, we have to do better. We have to rewire that subliminal messaging. And they can tell by discernment. That has to improve. So let me get back to my job here. Like I said, I was in law enforcement, and I knew this was not going to be an easy job. I will not name names, establishments for confidentiality reasons, but I will share you my story. I would get to work. We would have a meeting, as always. At the end of our meeting, there was always a prayer. I would say my own prayer. And I'll tell you why. Because I wanted God to hear from me. Because I needed that. Because I had to have my mindset right. I needed God working on my behalf. Because I wanted my subliminal messaging to exude God's presence. I wanted my subliminal message to exude compassion. Same things we talked about in Man on a Mission. No matter what was going on, he wanted his subliminal messaging to speak for him. And that was my objective. Let me get back to my text. So when you're on duty in law enforcement, you don't have a decision on where you go or who you work with or what floor you're on. They give you an assignment, you go to it. The subliminal messaging from other officers that I got was, you do yours, I do mine. That was not good. We had to function as a unit, a well-oiled machine, but that was not always the case. The subliminal messages I received was, I am going to make their day a bad day. I was at the detention center where we held inmates until they go to court. Now, I don't know anyone in a correction facility that wants to be there. So yes, they're going to have a subliminal message that might not be to your liking, to be expected. So there was several officers that honestly I did not want to be around, to work with, because they made things worse, to be honest with you. There's subliminal messaging that says to the inmates, don't bother me, I don't bother you. I won't do nothing to you, and at the same time, I will not do nothing for you. That didn't sit well with me. That's not me. That's not my subliminal message. That's not from my heart of who I was. I wanted everyone to get a sense of my subliminal messaging that I had compassion. I was honest. I was diligent. I had self-control. I had discipline over me. I cannot control what you do, but I can control myself, my actions, my thoughts, my responses to your behavior. Let me share this story with you that I encountered with an inmate. I was having a conversation with another inmate that was out and was cleaning, and he needed some personal hygiene stuff, and he needed to get in the closet, so forth and so on. And I had another inmate, which was in his cell, yelling and screaming at me and cursing me out, and I'm not this and I'm not that, because I wasn't attending to him. He wanted me to stop what I was doing and attend to him. He's a rather large guy, at least 6'5", I'd say 325. That doesn't matter to me. But anyway, he was calling me everything but a child of God. And he did get me out of character for a few minutes. I will not say the words that were exchanged because they would not be appropriate. But as I redirected myself away from that situation and I changed my location to diffuse the situation, I got by myself and I had to change my mindset. Keep in mind, I have to be in that facility with these inmates for 12.5 hours. I refuse to have that type of environment, that type of discretion for 12.5 hours. That was not going to work for me. That's not who I am at the core. So when I made my next round, which we have to do every hour, sometimes every 15 minutes, I knew that I had to encounter this individual again. So I had to change my subliminal messaging. So I stopped at his cell and I said, look, I apologize, dude. That shouldn't have happened. That's not me. That's not who I am. But you took me out of my comfort zone. And that's difficult for some people to get back on track when they're taken out of their comfort zone, because we are habitual creatures by habit, by nature. We're used to doing things the same way, sometimes at the same time, and try to get the same results. That's not the case with life, because life is always evolving, changing. So we have to have life skills in order to navigate situations. So our subliminal messaging will have to mirror what we want in return. If your subliminal message is hate, you don't matter to me, I don't have time for you right now, I see you but I don't see you, then the man in the mirror, that's what you're going to get back. So as I began to dialogue with this inmate, I said, that's not me. I said, I apologize for that. What can I help you with? And he told me what I could do for him, and I went back and made what was wrong right. But I did have to correct him on his behavior, his interactions, his subliminal messaging that he displayed to me, because he mirrored what he gave out. That has to change. I had to show him that this is not the way to get what you want, because your habits did not match your goal. And your goal was to receive certain items, and you needed this, needed that. But your attitude, your subliminal messaging said, I must. I'm demanding. So in a short time, I had to teach him that what he was conveying was contrary to his mission. That's a skill that we have to learn. Subliminal messaging. So as I continued throughout my shift, and I come in the next day, and sometimes I'll go to a floor and I will have this one particular floor I went to. The staff will say, why is it that these inmates are so happy when you get here? We never had that before. I said, I don't know. I said, I treat them the way that I want to be treated. The subliminal message that transferred a positive energy. I go in, I make my rounds, I speak to every single inmate. Sometimes there's 160. I want to know how their day was. I'm here for you. Let's follow the rules, treat each other with respect, and we're going to have a good shift. That's the seed that I planted. Dr. Evans referenced that. Your seed will have a harvest. What kind of harvest do you want? I want a good harvest. I want an abundant harvest. So my subliminal messaging has to transfer the energy. The man in the mirror. This is what I want to receive. This is what Jesus did on his walk. He wanted to convey the message, the subliminal message of what he wanted all of us to do, what he wanted all of us to be about. Love, respect, honoring one another, the self-discipline, regardless of the trials and tribulations that come in your life. If you're in a household, you don't want your household to be a cacophony of chatter. You want to have some structure. You want to convey subliminal messaging that say, I want to invite you in. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to show compassion. I want to communicate. Let me get back to my text. So like I said, when I come on my shift, I wanted to give the inmates the subliminal messaging that I will be respected. We are going to have a good shift. I must use the skills that I'm being taught. Controlling my aggression. Conflict resolution. These are things that I was about in that type of environment because it was needed. I could not display myself as they displayed themselves because there will be no progress. But I had to have my mindset right. So I'm walking around doing my shifts. Like I said, I'm there for 12.5 hours per day. And one of the inmates stopped me and says, hey, Officer McBride, why are you the only one that speaks to us? You always ask us how our day is. I really feel that you care. The subliminal messaging. I didn't try to baby the inmates. It was just the way that I carried myself. The character. That I want to be there for you. I always had an ear that was ready to hear. They say, I'll be glad when you're on shift because nobody talks to us. Nobody cares about us because we are behind this wall. I said, well, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that happens. But for me, my subliminal messaging will always say that I'm here for you. I care. I want to know what's going on in your life. He said, I appreciate that. I appreciate that because we don't have a lot of people to talk to in here. Another incident. I was doing a shift. I worked the overnight shift, and I would see inmates in their cells, some of them on their knees. I had an inmate stop me and say, look, I don't know you, but I need you to pray for me. I don't know this inmate from Adam. He did not know me. It's the first time I've ever met him. I said, why do you want me to pray for you? He says, I watch you while you're here. Excuse me for a minute. He says, I watch you while you're here. And there's something about you that makes me want to get to know you. I had to turn my head for a minute because I was getting filled up as I am right now. It was that subliminal messaging, that Holy Spirit, that transfer of energy that I asked God for when I walked through those doors. See, it's easy to judge from the outside looking in. But there could be an incident in life where the roles could be changed because we're not perfect. There may be a misunderstanding. But on the other hand, the subliminal messaging that God wants us to have is of love, compassion, understanding. So as you interact with people, your family, your spouse, the people on your job, a stranger, let your subliminal message be that of compassion, love, understanding, listening. Because the tables could easily be turned. So I began to pray with this gentleman, and after the prayer was over, he said, thank you. Thank you. He said, I needed that. I needed that. And that began to grow throughout the facility where I worked. And I would have inmates sticking their hands out of the window and saying, hey, I want to tell you about what happened. I want to tell you what happened after we prayed. I want to share with you the results of the prayer. They're talking about their families and how they want to change their lives. They want to take what they've learned back to where they came from because of the subliminal messaging. Again, the man in the mirror. I'm getting back what I gave out. I had another inmate. I went by a cell and I smelled something that I should not have smelled. I opened the cell door and I told this inmate, I said, well, I didn't say inmate because I never addressed him as inmate. It's sir. Because I believe in your subliminal messaging, what you give out is what you're going to get in return. So anyway, I said, I know what you're doing is against the rules. I said, now you have a choice. You can confess, and we're going to tear your cell apart. I said, but I know it's already been flushed and gotten rid of because I looked around as we were speaking. So I don't want to waste my time. But I'm not going to allow you to waste my time as well. I said, you're going to do something for me. I said, you are going to write me a paper about your behavior and how you plan to change it. I told this young man, I said, listen, you're what? How old? He said, 23. I said, no matter what you've done to get in here, which I knew, I said, there's somebody that wants to be just like you. Dr. Evans mentions and refers to that we're all leaders. Some of us, we have individuals who want to be just like us, good or bad. We don't know that. We can't control that. But our subliminal messaging needs to be right. Our mindset needs to be right because it's a transferable energy. So I said, you're going to write me a paper. He says, wait a minute. He said, you're right because my mom is moving my brother to Florida to be with his dad because she doesn't want him to be like me. I said, so that answers my question. There's somebody who wants to be like you. You're a role model, whether you want to believe it or receive it, that happens. So that ended that conversation. He accepted the offer. A couple weeks later, I'm on a different floor. He had been moved. I did not know that. And I saw this gentleman waving a piece of paper out of his food tray slot. And I'm like, what is this? And I'll go up there and I find out it's him. He says, I wrote that paper. I want you to read it. He says, I never thought this way before. I said, but sometimes God will put you in a situation where you have no choice but to listen. I said, you're out there doing your thing and you weren't receiving God's offers. You wasn't listening to him. You wasn't taking his cues. So maybe he allowed you to be somewhere where you have no choice. I said, I'm going to take this. I'm going to read it. And I'm going to give you some feedback on it. But I just had to encourage him that you don't have to be the old you. You don't have to be in here. But you're going to have to change your mindset. Even though you're in here, doesn't mean you have to be here in mind. Change your mind, change your future. I try to interact with the inmates through my subliminal messaging because they will check you. If you're not on point, if you're not being the person you say you are, they will always come back. See, yeah, I knew that. I knew that's how you officers are. So I had to have my mind right every time I went in, checking myself, checking my behavior, checking my mindset, because they will call you on it. One more incident and I'm going to be done here. I had another inmate say, Austin McBride, come here. I went by still. He said, you quiet, man. He said, my grandpa told me about quiet people like you. I said, what do you mean? He just said that you don't mess with quiet people because you never know. I said, well, your grandpa is right. But I don't have a vindictive spirit. If you do this to me, I'm going to do the same to you, or you have to be in fear when you interact with me. He says, no, I didn't get that. He said, I don't see that in you, but you're just always quiet. That was my subliminal messaging. I will show you who I am if I need to show you who I am. But then again, with subliminal messaging, you don't have to speak. You don't have to speak. Your character, your behavior, your interaction will speak for you. And that's by a change of heart. There's a change of heart. To love, to honor, to respect. You don't want to be that person where your life skills are such disarray that no one wants to interact with you because of your subliminal messaging. Your life skills are so discombobulated that people don't know whether you're coming or going. You're not approachable. No one wants to befriend you because of your attitude. There's something about you that's saying, this person's just not right. I don't know. 1 minute they're this way, 1 minute they're that way, and there's no consistency in their subliminal messaging. I don't get the feeling that I can trust this individual, that I can display my feelings with this individual, because it could be damaging. So we have to reflect the man in the mirror. What you give out is what you're going to get back. That's how life is. Life is hard. Life is unpredictable. But as Jesus stated, he wants us to see others struggling, barely and scraping by. He doesn't want to see that. He wants everyone to thrive and desire as a world was just and equitable for all. He dedicated his life to this deal with this in mind. Maybe this is his way of life's hardship can help us to let our subliminal messages be heard, to love one another, to care for each other. Dr. Evans mentioned that in his message. Look at your heart. That's the real you. Your subliminal messaging. That's the real you. The man in the mirror. That's the real you. The man on a mission. That's the real you. So as a reference, and I wrap it up, the man in the mirror. The message was about love and having that subliminal message of caring, sharing, honesty, diligence, conflict resolution, self-control, discipline, love, and compassion. The man in the mirror. At the end of the message, it's all about reflecting what you want back. Same attributes: love, compassion, wisdom, stewardship, honesty, integrity. The subliminal messaging, the same message: love, compassion, understanding, stewardship, conflict resolution, great leadership. If I don't reflect that, then I can't receive that. Your subliminal messaging is to influence, to create a system, a world, a relationship that has all these attributes. As I close, I want to thank God. I want to thank him for his words of wisdom, his comfort, his understanding, allowing him to speak to me and to speak through me. I hope that I have put these messages together to where you're able to discern this message and apply it to your heart. Thank Dr. Evans for his masterful message on subliminal messaging. Again, I'd like to thank Mr. Alex, who is our technical advisor and is able to bring these things to you on Spotify and YouTube. He's doing a wonderful job. Thank you, Mr. Alex. If you like what you heard, refer to these messages. Use them as you see fit. Subscribe. Hit the like button. Join us again. on Mindset Matters.